All right, Jared and crew from Southern Homesteads here. Hey, I'm super excited. We are starting a new build today. This is a tiny home slash barn for a client here in the mountains. And what's unique about this is that this is actually a Japanese themed barn or tiny home. And we're only doing the shell, so I don't know exactly how they're gonna finish it out when it's done. We're just doing the shell on this. But the owners, they lived in Japan for a while and always loved the architecture of it and always decided that, hey, at some point they wanted to build something that fit that Japanese architecture. So they've hired us to come in and build this structure for them. It's going to be 24 foot by 24 foot with some decks and some interesting stuff on it. So I'm super excited. Follow along. We're going to take you through from square one, getting the trees cleared out, getting everything done, the site prep done, and the build all the way to a completed shell.
3, 2, 1!
Okay, so just a quick pointer here. When you're starting out in a structure like this, one of the things that people struggle with is, you know, we're laying out flags, we're trying to figure out where our building is going to sit, and trying to get it square when you're just walking it out with a tape measure, you're going to be grossly off. So my recommendation is always pick the side that you care about. For this structure, they want the front porch facing the pond. So we're going to fix that front porch so it's facing the direction, and then when we do our layout, we'll square off everything else. So I'm not worried about the back where it's going to land. I'm just worried about this front line. Now, before we get started, there's the other thing that I really recommend you sit down and do. I always make two diagrams. Okay, one of them is just going to be my exterior perimeter. Now, I didn't include porches in this. This is just the house. And so on that, not only did I give myself the length in layout, but I went ahead and calculated my diagonal, which is going to be how we square this up, and it'll save a ton of time. The second drawing, even though there's architectural plans for this, a lot of times those plans get really, really jumbled up with a lot of information on them. So I always like to sit down and make my own layout and verify all of my information. Once those posts are set in concrete, there's no moving them. There's no easy moving them. So I like to sit down, make a specific drawing just to cover that, and then I don't have to worry about it. fastest way to notch cut posts on a job site with a chainsaw. Okay, so next up, we're going to lay down the Advantech flooring on there, and that's just a tongue and groove subfloor. Now, Advantech, as far as I'm concerned, is probably the best stuff out on the market as far as weather resistance goes, but we always wait till the very end when we're kind of running out of things to do before the walls are going to go up to put that down, because, and we'll cover it, because the rain coming through here, it'll still swell it and it buckles the joint some. And when you go to set floor later, it causes problems. So if you've got an option in your building, just stretch a piece of plastic out over it and do your best to keep it out of the weather. Even though it is rated to be in the weather, it'll cause problems later on with, like I said, your joints. As they swell, they kind of buckle just a little bit. And so you'll get some of those inconsistencies that you have to sand out later when you put in your floor. All right, so some of the cool parts about this deck that we're building here. Some of this is going to be covered up there in the front. This side over here is not. And they're talking about doing a garden and possibly a pond out here. And so one of the things that we did, you can see we went ahead and set support beams across the this side deck as it goes. And we were able to inset our post in that. So by insetting those posts, it gives it the illusion that the deck is almost floating out here. Now, one of the things, if you're going to do that, that offers a challenge is we still need handrail. And this is actually just going to get a rope handrail. We're not over the 30 inches that's required by code here locally to force us to put a hard handrail. But one of the things that you'll have the challenge with now is, what do we attach our post to? Because you can see this is not extending all the way down to the ground over here. So it's up and it's floating. And so simply, what we do is we set an outside band out here, and then we put blocks in and then sandwich it in between our outside rim. And once you do that and you set all your blocks in, you'll see this post is every bit as sturdy as the post that's in the ground. So you get that floating look. You don't have anything traveling down to the ground, and just as secure as it would be had you set that post all the way into the ground. One of the things that we've done is that's a little unique here on this side. As you can see, the deck ends there, but we've got another set of bracing out here. So this deck is actually going to extend roughly halfway down the building here. The reason we haven't put this in yet is because we want to build our actual front deck, and this is going to flow with all of the decking material being in the same pattern coming down this side. So as it comes down, we want to make sure where this deck ends into a staircase off the backside that we're not having to trim a board down and do half a board. Now, you would think, well, hey, you could just measure out and say, hey, it's going to be 6 inches for each board and come down. The problem you have with a lot of this decking is that it's varying in thickness, and it's varying almost 3/8 of an inch from board to board. So that 3/8 of an inch, by the time you put 20 boards out here, you've created a huge problem for yourself, and now you've got a funky trim at the end. So we'll wind up laying that deck. We'll bring those boards all the way down to the end here, then get a measurement and decide how much longer we want to run this out so that we don't have that problem. We don't have a funky cut there at the end. One of the other things when you're building a deck like this, so we've got all of our boards are going to be running long ways here. And when that comes down to the end, you would see the end grain, and it's a really unfinished look. And so what we've done is we've come back and we've actually banded the outside of this, so you don't see any end grain on your boards. Now, a little trick here, that when you go to do this, there's going to be some variation in height, and when on your cutoff side you've got a radius on your band, and then your cutoff side you would have a square edge. So we'll take a router or a sander and we'll break that edge so it matches the radius, and it just gives it an incredible finished look. And it's a little stuff like that that you don't know there's a difference until you've seen one that was done different. And then when you walk in and see a deck, it'll be glaring to you the difference between somebody that took the time, broke all the edges, made all the radiuses match, versus just cut boards and let them sit. Yeah. If you go to buy zip flash tape and there are 2 rolls stuck together, just go pick another roll. Forgot that stuff smells like a fruit roll up.
It's kind of the same thing. It kind of dangerously resembles it in like every way.